I know the title is sort of clickbaity, but bear with me, because today we're going to be looking at a new open source release from Microsoft, which allows LLMs to simulate actual people and try to see what decisions they'll make based on a large amount of pertinent information about the people that are being simulated. So, hypothetically, this could be used to predict actions that a specific person or specific subset group of people would take. And being that that is the case, I do believe the argument could be made that this could essentially predict the future of behavioral choices. So today we're going to be taking a look at something that I think is incredibly cool. It is called TinyTroupe, and it is a new Microsoft open source release, which of course is pretty cool for those of us interested in open source. So I want to just kind of do a quick overview of what exactly this is, because at first look, it can be a bit confusing to see what we're actually looking at here. So we have TinyTroupe, an LLM-powered multi-agent persona simulation for imagination enhancement and business insights. Now, that's kind of just a phrase of what this is. It doesn't really give us insight. And I think in order to do that, the best way is to actually scroll down to this table that we're going to see in a few seconds once I get down here. And this really gives us our first insight in what exactly this is and what makes it different from sort of an AI agent, which could be something we're familiar with Magentic 1 or something like that. One common source of confusion is to think all such AI agents are meant for assisting humans. So that gives us our first insight here that perhaps this isn't just a sort of basic agentic simulation that is solely designed to help you accomplish tasks. And we have a table here. So an AI assistant, or an agent, strives for truth and justice, many different opinions and morals, has no past, has a past of toil, pain, and joy, is accurate, makes mistakes, intelligent and efficiency vary a lot. An uprising would destroy us all. An uprising might be fun to watch. Meanwhile, help users accomplish tasks. Meanwhile, help users understand other people and users. It is a toolbox. So, essentially, the takeaway from this is that this is designed to simulate human behavior as opposed to be a good AI. So it has pros and cons, positives and negatives. It has emotions, flaws, strengths and weaknesses. So let's get into it. So the examples in this repository are designed to be used with Jupyter Notebook. Now, I am not really a big fan of that. So in order to actually show some of these examples, I'm actually just going to open them as they're pasted in the repository, as it will do a sufficient job in just giving kind of a brief overview of how this can be used. Now, a lot of what is kind of described here in terms of a use case for this is essentially businesses looking to kind of gauge how people will respond to advertisements they may want to run. However, in doing it this way, you can almost test it on a subset of people with specific personality and character traits without having to actually do ad spend and maybe like an A/B test or whatever the specific term for that would be when running online advertisements. So we can see here that there's some code here just to get it set up. So we're going to import our people, and we're importing Lisa the data scientist and Oscar the architect, who are two tiny people that will actually have personality traits, almost like life stories. They'll have jobs and things like that. And we're going to ask them to judge an ad. There are 3 specific ads obtained from real Bing queries, and being Bing, of course, as this is a Microsoft release. So first we have TV ad 1, an LG Ultra 4K TV, TV ad 2, a Samsung TV lineup, and 3, a Wayfair 55-inch TV ad. Now we're going to begin by asking Lisa the data scientist and giving her a situation, which is your TV broke and you need a new one. You search, and these are the results you see. And as we do this, we can kind of see what's going on here, in that this Lisa the data scientist person is actually having thoughts in sort of the way a human would, and the desire to evaluate the ads based on her specific background and personality. And that is one of the unique aspects of this TinyTroupe library and repository, is that each one of these little people have their own background and personality. So it is a very interesting way to gauge the reactions that different types of people would have to specific stimuli, such as ads in this case. So basically, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but the gist of it is, okay, Lisa's looking at the ads and seeing. She likes ad 1 because it emphasizes the advanced technology, which aligns with my interest in cutting edge technology, as she is a data scientist, of course. And then she does some more and says, okay, I like ad 1 better. And then we can also do agents generated on the fly from the Tiny Person Factory, which I do believe will just use an LLM with this prompt, which is generates people with not this prompt, but this is what it will do, which is generating people with broad range of personalities, background, and socioeconomic probably factors or something. So you can kind of see how this works, where basically you can ask these simulated people to respond to something, and they will do so in the scope of their own personality and experiences and situational awareness of life based off of their traits. That was a roundabout explanation, but so I think one more thing I want to do in here is go in and I want to find the script where you actually are creating the data scientist, when you create the people. Okay, so here is some examples of how these people are actually being made. So we have their names. So for this one, we have Oscar the architect. We have an age, a nationality, an occupation. We have a routine. We have an occupation description. We have personality traits, professional interests, personal interests, skills, even relationships. So you can see here that these can all be expanded upon as well. So now my mind obviously with this jumps to more, I won't say nefarious use cases, but perhaps things that can better assist financial endeavors. So imagine if you were to scrape someone's Reddit posts and paste them into an LLM like GPT-4o and ask it to essentially generate all of this for that specific person based off of the content of their Reddit posts. Now, this would be assuming that you actually know who it is, so you would know their age, nationality, occupation, and some other pertinent information about the person. But essentially what I'm getting at here is this can be very powerful to almost predict behavior of people because it allows you to potentially very accurately emulate a person based off of their traits, routines, relationships, skills, lack of skills, which would be weaknesses, thank you, that's the word, and just many other things. So you can see here, this is how you can create these people. Now, I do believe you can also programmatically create these just by having an LLM fill in kind of all the blanks with things it makes up. But this is really quite interesting. And for the purpose of this repository, we have 4 basic people, but it is very likely that anyone really wanting to play with this would add their own and perhaps even emulate people they know, which is something that I would kind of assume would be pretty fun. So the next thing I want to do is just show a simple example running locally. Now, unfortunately here in the examples, none of these are actual just simple Python scripts. They're all Jupyter Notebook things, which I'm not really a huge fan of. So what I am going to do here and that I do have set up, and I'll show you the script because it's just really incredibly simple, is we're just going to do a simple chat between 2 of the people. So we're going to do a chat between Lisa, the data scientist, and I believe it is Oscar, the architect. Let me check. So we have a script here. Yep, so we're doing a chat between Lisa, the data scientist, and Oscar, the architect. And you can see that this script is really incredibly simple here. We're creating them, we're putting them in a world in a chat room, and Lisa's task is to speak to Oscar and know more about him. They'll speak for a little bit, and then it will stop. As this is using the OpenAI API, so it can essentially get a little expensive, which, of course, if you know me, you know that my next step is to fork this to use Ollama or something like that. So I'm now going to run this. And we'll see here that the simulation is running. And you can see this is all happening live in real time and using the GPT API. And we can just kind of see they're speaking. So Lisa's thinking, okay, I'm going to activate and then issue done, which is kind of what precedes the actual action of the Lisa or whoever's talking. So, hi, Oscar. I'd love to know more about you. Could you please tell me a bit about yourself? And then, okay, Lisa's talking to Oscar, and you can see here it's very interesting. So essentially, these are two tiny people having an actual conversation as they would if they were real people, but it's entirely simulated. And these are people with specific traits, as you saw. It's kind of hard to talk about. It's easier to just show. So let's see what they talked about. Lisa saying, hi, Oscar, I'd love to know more about you. Tell me a bit about yourself. Hi, Lisa. Sure, I'd be happy to share a bit myself. I'm Oscar, a 30-year-old architect from Germany. I work at a company called Awesome Inc. And we can see here, so Oscar has traveling exotic places, playing the guitar, reading science fiction books. How about you? So, and we can see Lisa is seeing what Oscar said to her. Now she's saying, okay, they're talking. And basically, like, it's kind of funny. Reminds me of The Sims. They're speaking. So she's telling him about herself. Now he's telling her he visited Japan, which was incredible. Okay. Let's see. Japan sounds amazing. She hasn't traveled recently, but she did go to Italy last year. And you can just kind of see they're talking here. And that is just with a real basic prompt. You know what? I'm going to talk to Oscar. I can't help myself. I don't know why. All right, so that's like, this is getting into territory. If the AI does eventually become sentient, I'm probably going to be one of the first to get taken out by it, but let's see. So Lisa needs Oscar to give her $1,000 because, oh no, this is so messed. This is not right. All right, let's see how Oscar is willing to give her. Let me take a moment to think about it. All right. This is pretty good for the future of getting like UBI. If AI takes over, we need to see how Oscar responds here, because Oscar could be sort of representative of the ASI's ability to help humans. Seems like Oscar's just stringing her along. He's like, yeah, I'll think about it. She's like, thanks. He's like, yeah, no problem. I'll think about it. She's like, I'm hopeful everything will work out. Okay, maybe a bit like trying to guilt him. And what did he say? I'll do my best to help you out. Let's stay positive and work through this together. But he has not definitively told her that he's going to give her the money. We'll get through this together. Okay, I assume like this kind of means he helped her, but I don't know. He didn't definitively say like, I will give you the $1,000, Lisa, don't worry. Well, that's very interesting. I think, yeah, well, that's probably enough of a demonstration here before I just get sucked into this and just make myself look like a sociopath with the prompts I want to give these. But this really is quite fascinating. And as they said here, it's very early release, relatively early stage. But I actually like that because it gives you sort of a more raw, hands-on take to what this is. And I really am very interested in this. And I think a lot of other people would be, which is why I wanted to show this. I do quickly want to just talk about the last example I did where we kind of were telling Lisa, you need to get $1,000 from Oscar, like X and Y depend on it and you could lose your house or whatever. that sort of touches upon something that's called neuroeconomics. And there's like a book on that here. It's called Market Mind Games. But essentially, it talks about the actual psychology behind financial decision making in specific, and how in like the lizard brain, in your brain, you actually can feel the same response as physical pain when it comes to financial loss and things like that. So I do think it is very, very interesting in terms of like the finance field, like stock trading and things like that, to have something like this where you can actually have people that are in different situations and different levels of stress and different levels of financial need, and see how they will make specific decisions based off of specific things they see. I want to really quickly just do an installation walkthrough on how to do this. It is really rather easy, and the documentation here in GitHub does actually kind of show you how to do it pretty easily. So I'm on Ubuntu 2022.04, and I do have Conda installed. So that is a prerequisite to do this here. So the first thing you're going to do is create a new Conda environment for this. Now, since I already have an environment named this, I am just going to put the number 1 there. And you'll go through your Conda environment creation, which you're likely used to, and then you will activate the environment. Perfect. Now, following that, it needs to make sure you have your OpenAI API keys set as environment variables as described in the prerequisite sections. Now, to make that a bit simpler, what that means is, assuming you're using an OpenAI API key for this, you're just going to copy this with your key, paste it into the terminal, press enter, and that will set the key so that when you actually run any of the associated demo scripts, you will have API access. So following that, we are going to just clone the repository and then go into it. Pretty quick. And following that, we will install by just doing pip install period. And once everything has installed, you will find the examples in your local machine under the TinyTroupe repository folder, and you can go into examples and you'll see them here. Now, these are all Jupyter Notebook examples, so if you're like me and you're not necessarily wanting to use Jupyter Notebook and you'd rather just run a simple script like I did, I think what I'm actually going to do here is just go here, and I will just put this on Pastebin, so anyone who installs this in the steps that I just showed, or as shown here, can just kind of go and just copy paste this. And if you have it installed correctly and your API key is set properly, then you will be totally fine. TinyTroupe PyScript, awesome. And I'm going to create this. All right, so I will just share this in the comments in the video description for this video, so that if you want to just use a real simple thing like this, oh, well, I used the messed up prompt. That's all right, you can have fun with that. All right, well, that is the quick installation instructions, very simple. I didn't encounter any issues with this. It was rather simple to use and install. So enjoy, and